volumes down on our phones, and then we won't get the echo.
Yep.
Smart. Okay.
Good move.
Trying it, and then unmute yourself, Bobby.
Hi, Zoe. Congrats last night
What up,
in Clubhouse.
everyone?
Zoe's there. And there's D. D, thanks for inviting us. Both Gary and I actually to speak at the ETH conference right now. That was really fun.
A lot of fun.
Bobby and Ben, can you unmute yourselves on Clubhouse?
Am I? Yes. Unmute.
There we go. I'm unmuted.
And then if you turn down the volume of your phones.
And Ben Fuller. Yep, going. Yeah.
Good. Everyone's volume's down. All right. What's up, everyone? Welcome to episode 26 of Coffee and Commerce, where we are testing something new. We're on YouTube, Instagram, or rather not Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Clubhouse. So here's how it's going to work today. We're going to start on all channels, and then we're going to hop over to Clubhouse and interact with you. So thanks for joining us. As always, we have the effervescent Gary Vaynerchuk.
Hello, everyone.
And we got two gentlemen that I admire personally and professionally, Ben Shannon-Safar, Bobby Kim. What's up, boys?
What up?
What's happening?
Is this working okay on Clubhouse? I'm watching it, and it looks like it's lighting up like a rave.
It's working. It's working.
Yeah. It's like whack-a-mole, but okay.
It's good.
We're good.
All right, Zubin, fire away. Commerce.
All right, guys.
With the 100th voice.
For the 5 people who don't know who you are, you mind telling them who you are, and then we'll get started?
Yeah, I'm Bobby, and this is my furrier counterpart, Ben Hundreds. And we, about 18 years ago, we started a brand here in LA called The Hundreds. It's a streetwear brand. It was a specific generation of streetwear that was coming alive online. And our brand was really centered around my blog. I was connecting our community, kind of researching our community and broadcasting it with the rest of the world. We got started just making t-shirts, kind of very much like a garage style project. We built it out of our bedrooms, and then it caught on. The blog caught on because it was very early on with the internet. A lot of things aligned. Nike started retroing more of their sneakers. A brand like Supreme, Bathing Ape, like these kinds of brands started gaining in popularity. There was a downturn with some of the larger urban brands, which if you want to consider or classify those as streetwear too, that was a generation that was starting to change because of department stores and whatnot. And people were really looking for independent, authentic voices in streetwear and kids that really were doing it on their own and just trying to figure it out. So we had this real DIY spirit to it. The brand was blowing up at the same time as the blog. We opened up a bunch of stores. Fairfax happened. Fairfax is the streetwear capital or one of in the world. And we were there from the very start. And so, you know, Odd Future, those kids used to work in those stores on street and hang out there, and Odd Future blows up, and Frank Ocean, and then it just blew. And, you know, the Supreme thing happened, and we were in the middle of all that, you know, and so, and now we've lived many generations of this brand, many generations of streetwear. Very recently, we're entering like a completely different space, which is more along the lines of crypto and NFTs, and which is, you know, Gary and we've been talking a lot more about that, but that's kind of I don't know, Ben, did I do it? Is that?
Yeah, I think so. I think you did more than you needed to. But
okay.
I think you got
it. Which is typical. I say more than I need to.
So guys, so many of our clients, so many people out there, they talk about community. They talk about community after the fact. They build products, they do stuff, and then they're like, okay, now we're either entering a community or we got to create our own community. We got to figure this whole content and commerce thing out. I think, Bobby, one of the things that you said not so recently, but a few years ago, that was so compelling to me to hear. You talked about the brand and starting the brand, and the fact that you realized that it wasn't necessarily an apparel brand that you were starting. They were entering, growing a community, and the apparel was merch. Can you expand for us a bit?
Yeah. So a few years ago, I published my memoir. It's called "This Is Not a T-Shirt." And in the process of writing that book, right? So the book publishers, my agent comes to me, "Hey, we want you to write a book." I start writing the book, and I do like how anyone would write a memoir. I just started at the beginning. And halfway through, I started to question myself, which is why everybody should probably at some point write some kind of a memoir, because you're kind of faced with a lot of hard questions. You're looking on paper going, what am I actually doing here? What is the point of this? It wasn't just for money, and it wasn't just for power and glory. Why did I build this brand? Why are we doing all this every day? And halfway through the book, I started to realize that all the stories I was talking about were about these relationships with people. And the reason why I'd fallen in love with streetwear were the iconoclasts and these eccentric, odd figures that were behind a lot of these brands, the artists. And I was like, dude, it's all about the people. It's always been about the people. It's always about cultivating this community. Me being a middle child into skateboarding and hardcore growing up, being a person of color in a community that were just not a lot of Asian Americans, all of these reasons, right? Also just growing up in the 80s and 90s, was always searching for community and a home. And I never found it. And so this brand allowed me to create my own universe. And that universe was my community. And then I finally felt at home. And so that was the revelation.
Bobby,
and I think a lot of people have that revelation.
Bobby, something that I think will bring a lot of people who are listening or watching a lot of value. Ben, please feel free to jump in. You said something in your story in the setup of like, we were this new generation of street brand because this other generation was in Macy's and a million other things you could go about it. To that point, why do brands and companies lose their way? What are some of the things for the people that are listening to watch out for if they've got a couple things going well for themselves right now? Because you see it all the time in non-cool places like your world, and in obviously hyper obvious in cool places like your world, where you not only does your business change, the brand changes very quickly.
I think there are many reasons for this, but the most obvious one and first one that comes to mind for me is money, right? And as you grow and you want to continue, as you have success, you want to continue to grow and you want to continue to have success. You want to continue to make more money. And, you know, for our generation, when we started the brand, the brands that started for us, that meant you got to sell to Zoomies. Macy's.
Yep.
And Macy's had the big dollars. So you start small and eventually you get up to a place where you sell to Macy's, and Macy's is going to write you millions of dollars worth of orders. And that's what's going to support your brand and continue to grow your brand. But that, for us, that wasn't success, right? And we didn't think that was cool. And I think that a lot of, look, to be honest with you, even if you read Bobby's book, you see it happened to us as well, right? Like, we wanted to get bigger, we wanted to grow, and eventually we ended up in stores that, you know, when we started the company, we never wanted to sell to a store like Zoomies or PacSun. These Urban Outfitters, like these big mall-based chain stores, we never wanted to do that, but we felt we needed to in order to grow the business and continue to grow the business. Yeah, go ahead,
Bobby.
Oh, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I think I know where this question is going, actually, because it makes a lot of sense with the theme of today and the topic of the discussion. But I feel like this is a conversation really about gatekeepers, right? And so in the 80s, the 70s, the 80s, if you were an apparel brand and you wanted to get big and you wanted to reach an audience, you had to rely on the gatekeepers. Those were stores like Macy's. I forget all the names of these stores, Ben, like the older ones, the bigger department stores. And then
scaled distribution.
Scaled distribution. And then
whether that was Macy's or MTV. Because
exactly
Too Short,
right?
Like literally, watch this. There it is. This is what my skin always does. Look what happens with my goosebumps. The reason I feel the way about
see this on Clubhouse, everybody.
Sorry, Clubhouse.
Jerry is showing us.
I literally got goosebumps the second I said the word Too Short. Here's why. Yeah. Never did mainstream know, because he wasn't going to be on MTV. Mm-hmm. Never did mainstream know, because he was never going to be on Z100 on the East Coast, right?
Right.
But scale through sheer forever authenticity, right?
And building a community, his own community around.
Correct. Yes. Those mixtapes were fucking
Right.
crazy, comma,
Right.
I hate you, Bobby, because you're smart and you saw my 3 setup chess move to what I want, because I only got 15 more minutes. That's exactly right. There even with the internet, which was a massive advancement
Yeah.
in the ability to have unlimited gatekeepers, the cost of entry to be a gatekeeper was different. And so the gatekeepers, MySpace, Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, Spotify, SoundCloud, like there's a lot more. All they were the internet has so many more opportunities for so many more gatekeepers that it made it seem more democracy. Here comes social. Absolutely true. Absolutely true. I'm a byproduct of it. Then, Bobby, like to me, it's crazy how much money I've left on the table, like to myself as a businessman, to stay in a lane that I want to be happy with. And all of a sudden, here comes DeFi, here comes blockchain, here comes
And NFTs.
NFT. And what we're about to see is going to be scary, scary big.
Yeah. So I feel like there were gatekeepers that were these department stores for our generation. They were more or less the mall doors, stores like Active Ride Shop. But we still had to rely on them to access customers sales-wise and marketing-wise, right? There were still gatekeepers there. The generation right after us of streetwear brands, they had e-com and they had DTC, and they could build their entire brand without ever having speak through a gatekeeper. And that was their advantage. And we just missed that. But now we're getting to a space where you can you can walk around the gatekeeper, circumnavigate them on the sales end and the marketing end, right? You can sell to them directly, and you can just go directly through to your customers by use of the blockchain or NFTs or whatever. So it's like, this is the best possible scenario for brands and designers. Is like, we can hold on to all our integrity. We can get 100% of the money. And we can speak to whoever we want. We can sell to the.
You know what's funny about it? You know who's going to share in the money versus the 100% of the money? The people that know how to cultivate attention.
Yeah.
There will be people like this is. I'm like really sitting in the weeds. Like, this whole dream I've had for myself might be here quicker than I thought, right? Because all I've been doing is eating shit for 15 years, building this machine that can take attention arbitrage to a different place, even with the most talented.
Mm-hmm.
To me, that's, you're gonna, like, even the people, like, cool, you can do an NFT. Do you know how to strategize how to launch it? Do you know how to make it last for 40 years? Do you know how to do the gaming mechanics? Oh, by the way, do you know how to get people to even know it exists? Like, it's very nice that you have an NFT. Where's your audience? Like, so I think you're right. And I think I view myself and what I'm trying to build as almost like what MTV and radio, distribution and Virgin Supers, like, to me, it's like, can you be the most valuable? And what I love about the way I think about it is, and I want way less money. Like, my relationship with whatever it is, I want them to get a lot of the value. Artists got the smallest piece. Distribution, management, sale, like the person that created it, when it was all said and done, after this shit sold, especially art, not like a CD, but like art, like by the time you were getting nickels and dimes on the dollar, for me, I'm gonna bring way more value than all those things did, or I'm gonna represent that value through like partnership and through these worlds, but I'm only gonna want a tiny piece. That's crazy.
Yeah.
But
that's
big.
Also because you realize it's not a zero-sum game, right?
Correct. I live in 5149. All I care about is, can I give 51% or greater of value to any human I interact with, from a karma or a business relationship? And if I can be 100 and 0, I'm the happiest, because all that means is good. If you're gonna, like, I don't need shit, Zubin. I don't want shit. I don't need shit. I don't want shit. Now, in my older age, I'm like, oh, fuck. I do build resentment sometimes, so I have to develop kind candor, because I have resentment and then I bounce, and then people are stunned because I didn't forewarn them that I've been giving all the value and now I'm out. Like, and so I've had to evolve, but my natural state is not being interested in anything. Thus, I've always had this incredible leverage of relationship because I'm overwhelmingly trying to figure out how to bring more value than get in return. That's why I've done well in my businesses, right? I'm trying to sell you a wine that costs you less than what you came in for, that's better. Might be less profitable for me, but now you're like, yo, I fuck with that kid. I came in for Camus for $50. He sold me some cab that's better at 28. Who is this kid? That's how I built my company. And then obviously who I am as like a content producer, right? I'm coming out and I feel confident saying this. I spit facts and give value and engage at a level that's tippy top of the game with no alternative motive to my audience. That's big. That's different.
But that's also why you get along with these guys so well, right? Because they're the same. Look at what they've done with their community.
It's why I adore. I admire. Forget about get along. Forget about get along. I admire them from afar. You know.
Same.
Guys, talk about a little bit around your community building, what you've done for the community, what you're doing for the community, and the fact that it ultimately benefits the hundreds, and how the hundreds has evolved from kind of ebbed and flowed from as you put it, like a merch line for a community to an apparel brand in of itself to what you're doing with family style. I mean, there's just so much you guys are doing.
I mean, I can talk about it, but honestly, like, this is right where your cup of tea, Bob.
Yeah, look, upon the epiphany that this is really just about the community and cultivating community, we took a look at, and we had spoke a little bit about this before we started jumping on the call, but we had spent so many years building a brand that when you build a brand, you're so in it. The reason why you're doing it is because you want to be heard, right? You're building your own stage. You're like, I want people to look at me. I want people to hear what I have to say, that I want them to understand my opinions. And then you build this brand, and then you're like, what do I do with this now, right? And I've kind of said my piece. People know my story. What do we use this stage for? We have this beautiful platform. We have the main stage at Coachella. Well, for us, we looked around and we realized, well, this is a prime opportunity to get other people the microphone and the megaphone. So anybody who is deserving of the attention, needs the limelight, needs the audience, why don't you walk up here on stage with us? You know, so that's collaborators from young artists and independent brands that are social. That also is social causes, right? Whether it's us working with the indigenous communities around North America, which we did for a year with a bunch of indigenous brands. You know, now we're using it to talk more about Asian American issues. Last year it might have been more around the Black community. So another great example of this, I would say, is a couple years ago we started this food festival called Family Style. It's kind of an offshoot of the hundreds, and in recognition that food has always brought people together, right? Business meetings, dates, right? Like warring nations, they come together over food. So if food is the thing that's always brought people together and gotten conversations flowing, why don't we get the best food that we can curate and invite all the different communities in? And that Family Style has been very successful for that reason. But that was also another way that we wanted to serve the community. We have another event in 1 week in South LA, and we're working with all restaurants from the neighborhood. And you know, we want to highlight these establishments that are gems of LA food culture, and also showcase some movies like, for example, Mikey Alfred from Illegal Civ. We're premiering his new movie, North Hollywood. Mikey was a part of that mid-90s movie with Jonah Hill as well. And so, look, always trying to showcase the next generation, the young kids, the new brands, and also communities that haven't necessarily gotten the attention they deserve on the issues that they need attended to.
I love that. I love that for a couple of reasons. One thing that when I heard that, I'm a humongous fan of changing my mind, adjusting context. What's the common sense, practical thing? When I listened to that, that was community building on the reality of the moment. So there's a macro intent, and then you're just living. And that's kind of how I think about what I believe in, what I see works, and what works for me, which is whatever your principles are, how you see the world, what you fuck with. You never know. I mean, I didn't see Asian American hate brewing like this 2 years ago. That wasn't running through my mind like, yo, I'm sure in Q1 of 2021, this is going to be something that's going to mean something to me. I just know fuck bad shit. And so wherever I got a point, that's why when the whole lives matters, I'm like, yo, of course all lives matter, but let's vote. Like right now, Asian lives, it's okay for it to bounce around. Like don't get hurt because it's not your turn. It's always your turn. It could always be your turn. You never know what happens. And so for me, what I like about what you're talking about is the same way I think about marketing. I didn't know Clubhouse was coming. I didn't know NFT was ready. I've been seeing it. VR is something I look at every day-ish, AKA I can go 90 days without looking at it, but it is in my mind every day. Like this shit's coming, this shit's coming, this shit's coming.
Yeah.
And then one thing's gonna happen and I'm gonna be like, yo, here it is. No different than, NBA Top Shop or CryptoPunks or things of that nature. So I think that what I really like about that and what I want everybody in Clubhouse and watching on my live streams to think about what Bobby just said is, I think people are too micro. It's literal. It's like this. And I think if you take it up much higher and say, this is my overall ethos, and then the context of the situation is how I live, it's kind of like being a human being, right? Like people always try to box in brands, right? Which always, like our brand stands for, I'm like, that's fine. But like that very good one, Wardy. That's all fine. But the reality is, I have a funny feeling that Ben Hundreds is different than when he's with his inner family at dinner,
right,
than he is at a complex con trying to do a business move, than he is with his boys in Greece on a bachelor party versus like that one, by the way. Clubhouse reacted to that one.
First smile we got from Ben.
He's definitely a different guy on a bachelor party.
He just is, and he's a different guy when he's with everyone's different. You're different with your 11-year-old daughter than you are with your +1, than you are with your business partner. Like we have layers, and we need to let layers breathe.
Yes, Ben? Thank you. I write about that in my book too, just how brands can be traps. Everybody is, brands are being consistent, doing the same thing over and over again. The magic with our brand early on, I remember the first time I spoke at UCLA, a kid stood up in the back. We were only a few years into the brand. He was just like, how are you guys going to be relevant 10, 15 years from now? And now it's been 15, 18 years since then. And I was like, look, I'm just going to continue telling our story, and the story is going to change because we changed. You have to allow people to change. You have to allow people to make mistakes. You have to let people grow, right? We're all in.
Actually, Bobby, can I interrupt you for a second?
Yeah.
The ability to allow people to make mistakes.
Yeah.
What is Ben, Zubin, Bobby, thoughts on the quick triggers of society now? Right? There's such a fine line with cancel life, right?
Yeah.
People are headline reading, you're assumed guilty. Yeah. Let there be no confusion. Yeah. It's devastating to me. Everyone's assumed. I watch. All I do is read.
It's rough. Yeah.
It's rough. Like fake allegations guilty. It takes years to clean. Where do you feel the culture is in general right now on its ability to let people make mistakes? Because it feels very difficult right now.
I have many thoughts on cancel culture, which I'm formulating in an essay. But for one, I don't think it's going away anytime soon. I think this is just the nature. I don't blame the people as much as I blame the platforms and the way that the technology is set up. And so everything.
I think you're going to, by the way, on the record, you were going to be historically crazy wrong about that.
Am I really?
Yeah, let me tell you what, by the way, I am. This will be fun. We're going to be 70 years old watching this clip and someone's going to be laughing.
I think
the platforms are exposing us. I think people do not want accountability on our behavior. We love pointing fingers. We hate thumbs. I think people, I'm a very big believer that when we have a decentralized social network and the algorithms are doing nothing, all the shit you're seeing will be plenty there because plenty of people are hurt and want to hurt others. Insecurity. If you ask me what my number one hope is before I die, it's that I see society get into a really interesting relationship with insecurity. I think insecurity leads to so much bad behavior in a million different ways. And that if we stop demonizing bad behavior and we go deeper, kind of like we did with alcoholism or drug abuse, and we got more thoughtful. No longer, I'm 45. I grew up as a kid where like, oh, that's a druggie, that's a piece of shit. And now there is thoughtful compassion and trying to understand that. I think insecurity is the big one, because I think it leads to a lot of the behaviors that should be canceled and the reason people go to places so quick.
I think this is an and or not an or moment. I think what you're saying, eventually we are going to get there. I think in the immediate now, the reason why it is so crazy to watch is it's really the weight of the internet. I think if you messed up in anywhere in your life, in any generation before this, your community comes after you, right? There's a scandal, you do something wrong, your community comes after you. And the community at the time, let's say, was like a couple thousand people, a couple hundred people. And now when your community comes after you, it's 5 million people. It's, 5 billion people sitting on top of you.
That has nothing to do with platforms. That has to do with the internet, not the platforms on top of it.
Okay, so let me rephrase. That's the nature of the internet. That's the technology. And so if you're going to accept that people can become successful and famous overnight using the internet, then you also have to accept that people can be crushed and fall off the face of the planet overnight as well. Like, that is the other side of cancel culture. Why are we celebrating people who become huge pop stars, movies, celebrities overnight, but then when they have falls from grace overnight, that we cannot take that? So you have to take both of them. Those are both a result of how the technology works. But to your point,
brother, real quick, pre-internet, like this, this is what we did to Madonna. This is what we did to Elvis.
Right, but now we're all Madonna. I always use Pee Wee Herman as the best example.
I get it, right. But that's a great one. Like that's when four mega media conglomerate juggernauts made decisions on who we canceled or not. There was literally a Rupert Murdoch or a Red Summers who could stop us canceling.
Exactly.
That's why some of the people that got canceled first, there's a catch-22. There's a great Russian saying, it basically talks about everything's at its best when it's balanced. Yeah. And I think that's what I'm curious about as we continue to stretch. Go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt, but
no, I like it.
Think we are going to get.
By the way, this is how I like it.
Yeah, I think we are getting to the place that you're talking about, this great valley, which is a place of better empathy and compassion, because all of us are going to need to be broken first. I have this terrible fantasy. It's a dark fantasy that somebody's going to hack into the internet and expose all of our search histories, all of our emails at the same time.
Messages, the whole thing.
All our texts.
It's happening
at the same time.
And when we're all naked and all fucked, we all love it.
All naked.
By the way, I'm writing that screenplay, Bobby.
I'm
so scary. That's a Black Mirror. That's a Black Mirror episode.
But that's what's going to have to happen in order for us to reach that level of compassion. We're watching it happen to people one by one, and every time I see somebody throwing a stone at the glass house, I'm like, you really are next.
I love you for that.
Right?
I love it. I gotta go. Fuck, this sucks. Bobby, it was a bad, real pleasure. Zubin, keep this going. Bye, Clubhouse. Bye, every live stream.
Bye. Bye, Gary. Okay, guys, so now are we jumping into Clubhouse?
To add to that.
That totally took a detour, but
it always does, right?
It always does with Gary, especially. Yeah.
All right, let's talk about something else. Let's shift gears for a moment. So many people listening and tuning in right now, they either have a business, they're starting a business, they're doing whatever they're doing with their lives. And at some point in almost everyone's lives, they get to a point where they're like, I want to do something, most of the time. And they think about partnering with someone. I've gone through my partnerships that have been great and the ones that have been horrible. And one of the things that I realize is that at the end of the day, after you sit back and look at it, you're like, how much do I care about the other person's success, right? Like, the reason why I love working with Gary is because I want him to buy the jets. I want him to be successful. And the more I want him to be successful, in turn, the more I'll be successful. And Bobby, you mentioned in your book, which I think everyone should read. I've got multiple copies here as well. I give them out all the time because I think it's just, and I can't wait until it's a show, by the way. But you mentioned in your book, in the chapter around Mac, and you guys, Ben, Mac, your evening conversation, everyone needs to read it. I mean, it's you're not gonna put this book down. But you mentioned At the end of it, the end of that chapter, you said, or you wrote, the one person I care about when it comes to the hundreds is Ben. I work my darndest to impress him and to do whatever I can to make sure he's performing his best every day. Can you tell us more about your partnership? And Ben, how do you feel about it? And just tell us more about how your partnership works. What can people learn from your partnership?
Yeah, look, partnerships are really hard. Bobby and I didn't know that we were getting married 18 years ago when we started the business, but a partnership is a marriage, and they're really hard, and you got to work towards them, work on them all the time. And you know, I think that Bobby and I, over the years and early on, you know, we distinguished our roles, and we both help each other out when we need it. But you know, I work on my side of the business, and Bobby works on his side of the business. And you know, I handle the business end for us, and I have a ton of respect for Bobby because he's one of the best businessmen I know, and to know that he trusts me with that really gives me the confidence I need to help run our business, right? And I hope I do the same for him. I think I do the same for him. Bobby is the leader behind the creative side of our business. And you know, I do not think I'm nearly as creative as Bobby, but I think I know enough you know, I could be there to support him, and I really believe him, and I'm his champion, and support him to let him do his job. And the trust that we have in each other's visions for our side of the business, I really think has helped us get to where we are today. So yeah, I mean, to wrap that up, like, partnerships are really hard. And I think that, you know, as you're getting into it, I think the most important thing really is to just make sure you know what your role is in the partnership. You know, to also touch on what you said about what you about how you want Gary to succeed, and Gary succeeds, that means you succeed. That's absolutely true. And you know, Bobby and I, we do have this bond, this friendship, and this partnership to where, yes, like the bigger and better that Bobby does with his work, that's better for me. And I think the same goes for him too. That, you know, the more I do for us, you know, it's better for us. It's the better I do, it's better for us. And I think those are all really important parts to a successful partnership.
There's an old psychology anecdote. A marriage therapist is sitting in front of couples, and within the first couple minutes of talking to them can tell you if they're going to last or not, whether they're going to be divorced in 10, 15, 50 years, or whether they're going to stay happily married. And the therapist professed the reason, what signaled this for her was that there was a lack of respect in the way that the husband would address the wife, or vice versa. And that is the glue, right? Like, that's the core of any marriage, but also every partnership. It's respect. And the moment that there is a fluctuation in that respect, there's a lack of respect. You know, I don't always agree with Ben. In fact, I disagree with him probably more than I agree with him, right? We fight, we argue all the time, but I have so much respect for Ben in his position and his role in the company, that even if I am enraged at the decision that he made, I'm like, but I gotta respect the guy, right? And so I try to uphold that in all of my relationships, with my friendships, with you know, all my partnerships that I'm in. And the last piece I'll leave that with is, if you're looking for a partner, whether it's in romance, in business, any venture that you're getting into, you have to start by being a good partner yourself, right? The partnership is only going to be as good as you are. You cannot be constantly looking to the other person to fulfill whatever it is, that hole in your heart, or whatever it is that you're supposed to bring to the business. Like, that's on you. And so I see a lot of people get in trouble other brands where they're constantly blaming the other partner for something or other. I'm like, yo, that's you. That's your problem. So you be the good partner first, you know, and as you work more on yourself, right, your partner will be empathetic enough to work on themselves. And that is like the respect. But you know, yeah, of course it's hard, but it's also like the best thing ever. Like Ben's my best friend. We've been doing this for 18 years. It's like, it's really not even about the hundreds. If you look at the story again, it's about the people. And it's really just like Ben and I at the end of the day in the center of our building. We have a 90,000 square foot building here in LA, right? There's like 100 people in the building, right? All kinds of art, visuals on the walls. Our favorite photo, there in the center of the building, there's a photo of Ben working at his desk. It's from 2006. Is that right, Ben? I'm shooting the photo. Right?
Yeah, winter in the January of 2006.
Yeah, Ben's sitting there working at his desk. It's like midnight. It's like 1 a.m. And I'm taking the photo from across the street through the window and just being like, this is everything. This is our entire universe. My whole life is in here. There's Ben. We had like 7 t-shirts. That was our entire inventory. You know, that was our first office and warehouse, and eventually became our store. And the store became what, you know, Fairfax and Rosewood as we know it today. But every day I come to work and, you know, I have a zillion things going on. We're working on all these massive projects, and I pass by that photo and I'm like, it's still just that. Still just a couple of 23-year-old kids who started a t-shirt brand. We're just having fun. Like it's never veered from that. It's always that.
That's amazing. And I think it also is reflected in how you deal with and work with your clients, or rather your colleagues, your employees,
100%.
your vendors, everything. It's not just the two of you.
100%. You got to be a good partner first. You know, you got to respect the people you're working with. If you don't feel like you're being respected, leave. It's not going to work.
I'm going to say it again, right? Like I said it earlier, but I think that so many people in the world view partnerships, view business, view success as a zero-sum game, and they're infinite opportunities. And once they shift that mindset and they realize that just because you're doing better doesn't mean I can't also do better. Or if I help you do better, that doesn't mean that I can't do better. And it's a really important like mindset for people to get out of, this whole zero-sum mentality that like everyone can do well together, right?
Yeah.
We were built on that premise, right? So when we started the blog, I spent 9 out of 10 posts, and we still do this, talking about other people, other brands. And that mindset was so opposite from how the first generation of streetwear had started, where it was very dog eat dog, which is the first generation of anything is dog eat dog. There's only so much space. There's only so many customers. But when we came in, we were like, hey, I'm more interested and curious about what everyone else is doing, because the more I talk about them, the more I talk about Huff or Diamond or Crooks and Castles or whatever brand it was, the bigger the marketplace becomes for all of us, right? The rising tide lifts all boats. And I feel like we're in that same space again with NFTs, right? And like this new movement with crypto art. The strongest part of all of it is the community, where everyone is just buying from each other, supporting each other, selling and minting for each other, right? I'm just looking in the chat right now in the Clubhouse, but like Zoe, who's an NFT artist, is the same way. Like she goes on last night on Clubhouse talking about her release. Like she just had a big NFT drop. All the people in the room are other NFT artists who are like, go Zoe, like we're behind you. She's always out there. She's always supporting. Every time I jump in a room, she's always in there, like listening, like supporting all of us. So that is the secret to all of this. It's, you know, is supporting your community and supporting your supporters.
It's brilliant. All right, I'm going to ask you one more question on the YouTube stream, and then we're going to jump into Clubhouse for all you folks in Clubhouse. We got a few minutes for you to ask some questions from the guys. All right, Bobby, you've got a milestone birthday coming up.
Oh my God. Where did that come from? How do you know that?
Well, all I had to do was Google it. And then I've got the same milestone birthday coming up, but it's not about me. It's about you. But
okay,
everything kind of came together for me as I was thinking about this today. And I'm like, okay, your milestone birthday is coming up. I can't help think about the conversation that you had with Abe Edelman. And he told you to follow your passion and that you've been so successful. Turning 40 and accomplishing what you have, doing what you love. Can you talk about that a little bit, please?
Yeah. First, I have to correct you. In the internet, it's wrong. For some reason, it says my birthday is a year later than it is. My 40th was actually last year.
Oh,
However,
shit.
my 40th was last March 27th. But I will say that it didn't count because it was right at the start of lockdown. And it was the worst way to celebrate the 40th, where no one would even drive by at that
We'll
point
just
and wave
assume it's
hi.
next week.
So next week is my real
Yeah.
40th. So thank you, Zubin. Ben also celebrated his 40th like a month after mine last year. He also gets another chance at it. The story that Zubin's talking about, and I write about in my book. People have heard it a few times. When Ben and I started, we were in law school, and I was still on track to be an attorney. And that first summer after our first year, I interned for a research attorney in the courthouse. His name was Abe Edelman. And I had a 3-month internship there, and he was basically my mentor. And the first day, it was very apparent that Abe was sick, and everyone knew that he was dying of cancer. We didn't know when, but he was dying. So I work with this guy intensely. He's a genius. He's kind of a legend in the courthouse. All the other lawyers were scared of this guy. And the last few weeks, he kind of stops showing up. He's really sick. He really can't even stand up straight. And I show up to my last day of the internship at the end of the summer, and he's sitting there on a bench, and he's talking to all the interns one by one. And so I get in line, and I sit down with him, and he says, how did it go? And I was just like, yeah, I mean, that was great. Thank you. I learned a lot. And he's like, you're one of the brightest interns I've had in all the years of me doing this. You're going to have all the cars. He said it just like, he said, you're going to have all the cars, all the homes, all the women. Right. So like the plural part of all that was just like amazing. Like I'm going to be a big dog attorney. And he looks at me and goes, but you should never be a lawyer. And I was so confused. I was like, wait, Abe, you just said I did what? Did I mess up somewhere? And he's just like, no. You're going to be super successful as a lawyer, but you should never do it. Your heart's not in it. And I was just like, yeah, sure it is. I've been coming to work every day. I've been putting in my sweat and tears. He's just like, nah. He's like, what do we talk about when we go to lunch every day? We walk down the street, we sit at the Carl's Jr., the McDonald's or whatever. Like, what do we talk about? I was like, he's like, you talk about this thing you're working on called the Hundreds, which at that time, the summer of 2003, was not a thing. Ben and I didn't even have one t-shirt printed. We didn't have a website set up. He's like, you always take out your black book. You have all your drawings, all your t-shirts you're working on. You have your framework for your website, because I was building an HTML website by myself, which is what you did back then, very analog. He's like, that's what we talk about is the Hundreds. And he's just like, I don't know if that's ever going to be a thing, but the way you care about that, you're so passionate, you love it so much. It's like, look, one day you're going to wake up and you're going to be 40 years old like me, and you're going to be dying of cancer. And are you okay with having spent this entire life doing something that you didn't truly love, even though you're going to make money doing it? And, the remarkable part of that story, well, first, Abe ended up passing away a few months later. But what he did in that exchange was Abe gave me permission, right? No one had given me permission to that point to do whatever I wanted, right? My parents said, you can't make a living being an artist. Society, my teachers, they were like, you're never going to make it. Oh, you want to be a fashion designer? You're Asian American. There is none, right? So you're not even represented out there. Like there's no roadmap for you. And so no one said I could do it. No one gave me the permission. He gave me the permission. He's just like, what do you want to do? Do that. Somebody that I respected, Abe, do it, right? So then I gave myself permission. I owned it. I said, I'm going to do this. This is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. Every day I have to wake up and tell myself that every single morning. I'm brushing my teeth and I'm like, you got this. And the imposter syndrome in me is just like, nah, you don't know what you're doing. You don't belong here. You're a fraud. And I'm like, no, I belong in the room. I should be in this room. Ben and I deserve to be in this room. Why not? Right. And so he said, one day you're going to wake up, you're going to be 40 years old. And are you going to be okay with the choices that you made? And I woke up 40 years old a year ago. And I sat there in bed and I was just like, this is the day. Like I was talking to my wife and I was just like, babe, like this is the day. And I'm very, very happy with the choice that I made. I make a lot less money than some of our lawyer counterparts, right? Like Ben and I have friends who have more money than we'll ever see and are very happy and successful because that was what they were chosen to do. But for me, I'm very happy, man. dude, the day that Ben came to me and said, "Hey, we can make our rent doing this," like that, he might as well have handed me $3 billion. I was just like, I'm rich. I was like, because it's not about the money, it's because I get to do what I really want to do and I can survive off of it. Like, that's it. I can make a living off of my art. That's it. Like, you don't need to give me more. You can give me a yacht. Like, what am I going to do with the yacht? It's going to be parked out there while I still come to work every day and get to work on the project. So that's all, that's the Abe story.
Bobby, thank you so much for sharing that. I mean, I think the audience, everybody on YouTube, Clubhouse, etc., is finally realizing, if they haven't already, why I love you guys so much. I mean, you're so brilliant. And we're gonna end. Let's end our YouTube. Just jump to Clubhouse. Just answer a couple questions.
All right. Bye, YouTube world. Come over to
YouTube
Clubhouse.
world.
All right, YouTube world, come over to Clubhouse.